All right, let's get right into it. What we're talking about today isn't some casual financial tip. No, this is about the absolute, non negotiable bedrock of your financial survival. It's about building the one thing that will stand guard and protect everything else you're trying to achieve. You know, there's a reason this piece of wisdom has been around forever. It's a fundamental truth about being prepared. When it comes to your finances, waiting for the crisis to hit before you get ready, well, that's not just risky, it's a guaranteed path to disaster. Let's be perfectly clear about this. An emergency fund is not a nice to have, it is the foundation. It's the concrete slab you pour before you build the house. Without it, all your plans for investing, for retirement, for your future, they're all just built on shifting sand, ready to get washed away. So let's talk about the problem. The truth is, reality doesn't really care about your 5-year plan. Life is chaotic, it's unpredictable, and financial shocks, they're not a matter of if, they're a matter of when. And just think about how common these things are. One day, everything's going along just fine, and the next day, bam, the engine in your car blows. Or a surprise medical bill shows up in the mail. Or your company announces layoffs. These aren't some far-fetched scenarios. This is the brutal ambush of modern life. And this really gets to the heart of it. Trying to navigate life without an emergency fund is like walking a tightrope with no harness. And the fall? It doesn't just sting a little. It can literally set you back for years, maybe even decades, trapping you in a painful cycle of debt and trying to catch up. This right here is such a critical point. Trying to build wealth before you've built your financial fortress is pure foolishness. It's like building a castle, right? You would never spend years crafting beautiful towers before you've dug a deep moat and built thick stone walls. The first raid would leave the whole thing in ruins. This fund, this is your wall. So what's the answer to all this chaos? Well, it's actually beautiful in its simplicity. It's an unshakable buffer that stands between you and financial catastrophe. Let's define this perfectly. It is a dedicated pool of liquid cash. It has one job and one job only, to absorb the shock of a genuine, unexpected disaster. Its entire purpose is to turn a life-shattering crisis into what feels like just a manageable inconvenience. And just as important, you have to know what this fund is not for. This is not your fun money. It's not for jumping on a hot stock tip your buddy told you about. It's not for a down payment on a new car, and it's definitely not for grabbing that deal you saw in an online flash sale. This money is sacred. Its purpose is survival. Period. Because in the end, this fund buys you something that no gadget or vacation ever could. It buys you peace of mind. It buys you the ability to face a crisis with a clear head, not with sheer panic. It's the freedom to actually sleep soundly at night, knowing that you're prepared for the storm. Okay, so how do you actually build this thing? It's not some vague goal. There's a specific, actionable formula that anybody can follow. Let's just break it down. Step 1, figure out your essential monthly expenses. And I mean essential. This is not your total income or your total spending. This is just the bare bones cost to survive. We're talking housing, utilities, food, and any minimum debt payments. Then, step 3, you multiply that number by somewhere between 3 and 6. That's your target. So for example, if your core survival costs add up to $3,000 a month, your goal is somewhere between $9,000 and $18,000. Now, you might be asking, should you aim for 3 months or 6? Well, if you have a super stable job, maybe multiple streams of income, 3 months could work. But if you're in a more volatile industry or you're the sole provider for your family, pushing for that rock-solid 6-month buffer is definitely the wisest move. Now, having a target number is one thing, but actually executing the plan, that's a whole different ballgame, and it requires a very strict rule to protect this fund from you. Here it is. This is the non-negotiable law. You must keep this money totally separate from your day-to-day checking account. I mean, human nature is predictable, right? If you see it, if it's sitting there every time you log in, you will eventually find a reason to spend it. This just lays it out perfectly. Your checking account is that shifting sand we talked about. It's visible, it's tempting, it's way too easy to spend impulsively. A separate savings account, and hey, make it a high-yield one so the money's at least working a little bit for you, that is your solid foundation. It's out of sight, it's safe, and it requires a deliberate action to get to it. And I love this metaphor. Think of your emergency fund like a fire extinguisher that's sealed in a glass case on the wall. It needs to be accessible in a real fire, right? But that glass is there for a reason. It's there to make you stop and ask yourself, is my house actually on fire? Or am I just tempted to smash this glass for a new TV? Okay, now let's see how this fund becomes so much more than just a defensive tool. It is the single greatest shield you have for protecting your long-term wealth. Think about it. When disaster hits and you don't have a fund, what are your options? You rack up crippling credit card debt. You go to predatory lenders. Or maybe, worst of all, you're forced to sell your long-term investments at the absolute worst time, just to buy groceries. This fund prevents all of that. It is the shield that guards your wealth. Without that buffer, you're forced into a situation where you are literally paying interest on your own misfortune. It's such a painful trap, and it turns a temporary problem into a long-term financial prison. This fund is your get-out-of-jail-free card. Which brings us to the final and honestly the most important part. This isn't just information to file away for later. This is an urgent, right-now call to action. I want you to really let that sink in. It is blunt for a reason. If you have nothing set aside for emergency, you are in a state of emergency right now. You just don't know it yet. So what do? The command is clear. You have to act with urgency. Cut every single expense that isn't essential. Find extra work. Drive for a rideshare. Sell stuff online. Automate your savings so every spare dollar goes directly into that separate account. You do whatever it takes to start building that wall brick by brick. You have to prioritize your own financial safety above all else, because only then can you truly begin to build your future.